the first week of 2026 has been insane, to be honest with you. We've had Delta Force put boots on the ground in Venezuela to take Maduro and his wife back to America. We've had government officials in America refuse to rule out taking Greenland by military force, which would absolutely shatter NATO. And then I woke up this morning to find out that US has seized 2 oil tankers off the coast of Scotland. Now, it's not as simple as saying that they've seized these 2 tankers. No, they have not turned into pirates, unless that's your opinion. Some people seem to think that in YouTube comments. But we're going to get into it. We're going to see what it's all about. We're going to break it down, and we're going to go from there, because some people don't really understand what's going on here with these oil tankers, okay? Before we get started, though, check out Chug. 10% off. Link down below for the best drinking vessel in the world. If you haven't seen already, they upgraded so that you can take the metal part out, put this in your dishwasher, and protect your wood. You've always got to protect your wood. Also, unlike the old one, this was the last version. You can only get like 4 fingers in. It was a bit cramped. You can get a full fist in this one. It's always a benefit, getting your full fist in. Handmade here in the UK. Sustainable wood by a small business. Ships to America. Also, if you haven't seen, I made a drink. Boost your morale. Go buy yourself some healthy, energizing drink and support the cause of getting people outside as much as possible. We've made some incredible content over on the Instagram and on the YouTube channel, so go check that out. The content is ramping up this year, and I'm very, very excited for it. Go buy yourself some drinks as well. Okay, all right. What the hell is going on in America? What are they eating? What's in the water over there? Okay, here's the footage. Let's watch the footage real quick. Because at the same time, whether you agree with it or don't agree with it, like always, I still think it's really cool to break this stuff down and actually look at the military content and the tactics used, because that's my speciality. I'm not very good with geopolitics. That's not my cup of tea. That's not my thing. Yes, I have opinions on what's right and wrong, but my speciality is talking military tactics. Let's look at this stuff going on here. So we've got an oil tanker. Bearing in mind, I want to preface this by saying my speciality in the Royal Marines was anti-piracy. Okay, so I was on ships protecting them. This was my bread and butter. This was my thing. These guys are going on to an oil tanker and taking it. So let's watch this. U.S. Southern Command. Oh, I missed what it said there. Let me read that. U.S. Southern Command appears to show the seizure of a Venezuela-linked tanker. A bit more complicated than Venezuela-linked, but yeah, the international waters in international waters in the Caribbean Sea. There's the boys doing some CQB, clearing some rooms, fast rope. I'm sure I've played that mission on Call of Duty before. It was released on the same day US forces seized the Russian flag tanker Marina after a pursuit that lasted more than 2 weeks. Okay, so that's the footage, right? There's not much footage there, but it is kind of cool to watch, isn't it? Especially the lads fast roping and stuff like that. Okay, so what is going on here? All right, let me pull up this picture real quick. What has happened is the US has taken control of Venezuela, which in itself is a very strange sentence to say out loud. So what is happening here? We know that there's oil being moved between Venezuela and some of these other countries like Russia, basically countries that the US doesn't necessarily get along with. The US has put a blockade up saying, no, we can't do this anymore. We're going to seize everything that's coming in and out because we're taking control of the area. Okay, whether you agree with that or not, it doesn't really matter. That's what they're putting out there. So one of these oil tankers was coming along here to the Caribbean Sea, to which it found out that it was going to be taken by US forces, basically. And so it turned off its data location and headed back upwards towards Russia while also changing its flag. This is massive, this, okay? And for those of you who say, oh my God, it's a vessel that doesn't have a country, that's not really how it works. When you change a flag, you automatically, well, not automatically, but you become part of that country as long as it's been accepted by the country you're putting the flag up on. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? So it's a little bit more complicated than that. But what is weird is this vessel was going into the Caribbean Sea, through the Atlantic, over to Venezuela, realized, hey, we're getting monitored here, disappeared for a little bit, and then decided to go up north and change flags to Russian. Now, the reports are that this, I'm not sure where I've seen it, but the reports are that this ship was empty and didn't have anything on it, which makes me think, why the hell would US want to take it then if people are saying there was nothing on it? And so I am going to believe that there's more to it behind the scenes that we're not getting here. Was it just oil? Listen, the idea that America has taken Venezuela because of drugs, I think is a bit of a cop-out. I think it's mostly to do with oil. Whether you believe that or not, I don't really care. Also, the idea that America or Trump is saying they want to take Greenland because it's of national security, I also don't really believe that either. I think it is also for resources. And the reason I say that is because America has it has the ability to put as many troops as it wants in Greenland. Like it's been like that for years. But America's been taking troops out of it, okay? And so we can presume that because Greenland's like, look, if you want to have a military presence here for security reasons, go ahead. We're all friends. It's NATO. And yet the US is still saying that it might take it. My presumption at that point is it wants more than just security. I think that's an obvious thing. We can all agree on that. I don't think, I get there's a lot of people, there's going to be a lot of people in the comments that are like, believe everything that Trump says. And you got to be very careful of doing stuff like that, especially if you're a veteran or someone in the military. We get told as Royal Marines commandos to be thinking soldiers. So when someone gives us orders, we have to understand why that order has been taken place, how the most effective way to do it is by self-assessment and seeing what we're capable of doing, and then also knowing what is right. If you don't question what is right and what is wrong, you end up following orders blindly, okay? And the excuse of I was just following orders does not stop war crimes charges on you, okay? Just so you all know. Okay, with that being said, I think it's really important that we all question everything, and I think that's something that we can all agree on. Do you think, first and foremost, that Trump wants it for national security? I don't think so, because at the end of the day, this oil tanker was seized up here between Iceland and Scotland. The lads that took it, the US lads that took it, flew out of the UK using UK reconnaissance, and they were supported by UK RAF. And so the idea that they need more stuff up there is kind of a non-statement. The UK, all of NATO, we love working with America. It's what we enjoy. We all enjoy this peace that we have working with each other. And we don't want NATO to collapse. So the whole the Greenland thing, maybe we can get into that into another video. But I think that's a non-excuse. What is weird here, though, let's get back onto the main subject, is that this tanker was apparently empty, was going to Venezuela, saw that it was going to get captured, and then changed course and turned off its data before re-emerging with a Russian flag on its way to Russia. That to me screams there's something on that ship that they didn't want America to get. I don't think it's the oil. I personally think it probably had more than oil on there. A bit more dangerous equipment. And I'd love to know what you think in the comments with that. That's me speculating, by the way. Let's see what the actual news is saying. Although, whether you want to believe the news or not is a different question. That's why I use ground news right here. This tells you whether it's left or right leaning or center. And it tells you who's funding the news articles, which I think is very, very important. With that being said, let's go over what it says. On January 7th, 2026, U.S. European Command announces the seizure of 2 Venezuelan-linked tankers, including the motor tanker Sophia, in back-to-back operations, with Kristi Noem stating, in 2 pre-dawn operations today, the Coast Guard conducted back-to-back meticulous coordinated boarding of 2 Ghost Fleet tanker ships. They're saying Ghost Fleet because the idea that these ships don't have a true country of origin because they're changing flags so much. So there's a bit of gray area there. Does Russia take responsibility because they put a Russian flag up? Do they claim it at that point? Because they changed the flag without authority potentially. Does that mean it's a Ghost Fleet? That's up to you to decide, and I think that's up to debate right there. As part of a border campaign to enforce sanctions, US officials said the seizure targeted a shadow fleet moving oil from Venezuela, Iran, and Russia to uphold the US blockade of Venezuelan oil. Now, I have been told that this ship didn't have any oil on it. So why did they take it? I think it probably had more than oil on there. Again, take that as you will. I'd love to know what you think in the comments on that. Because if it had weapons and they were being supplied between Russia, Iran, and Venezuela, it has every right to be taken. Every right. There's also more to this story that I don't think... it says it in the next thing, actually. Russian Foreign Ministry condemned the seizure as disproportionate and mobilized naval assets, while British Armed Forces, supported by the area surveillance aircraft and RFA Tide Force, complying with international law on Wednesday. So, for those of you who don't know, what happened was this ship was between Iceland and Scotland, right? This tanker. And the US was like, nah, this needs to stop. It disappeared for a little bit. It was coming towards Venezuela. Super sus. We're going to take it. The Russians saw that because they put a Russian flag up on this tanker and decided we're going to throw a submarine in that area. They were going to throw a sub in the area. But the US took it way before that US sub could even get to it. And so Russia was willing to intervene to prevent it from being taken. Massive. This is, again, going back to me wondering what was on this ship. Yes, we know the US will tear the world down for a little bit of oil. It's a meme. And the reason why people mean that all the time is because there's an element of truth in it. The US will go to a country because there's oil there. I don't care if you're left or right. We can all agree on that, right? Yes, this ship might have had oil on it, but I've been told it didn't have any oil on it. It was an oil tanker, but it didn't have any oil in it. Okay? With that being said, what was on the ship? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there was oil on that ship. Maybe there was. But, bit sus, innit? At least 3 other sanctioned tankers near Venezuela have changed flags to Russia in recent weeks, while US officials said the campaign is ongoing and warned the seizure could escalate tensions with Moscow. I'm not necessarily worried about that. I think Russia is on the back foot with Ukraine anyway, and they are struggling. And I don't think that anything the US does is going to make Russia escalate things in any way. That's my opinion. Whether you agree on that or not is totally up to you. You can what's cool is you can look at the biases here and see what this is what the left are saying about this situation. US forces seized the Russian flagged oil tanker in the North Atlantic after week-long pursuit due to its links to Venezuela. The tank, previously known as Bella 1, had changed its registration to Russian while carrying no cargo. There you go. While carrying no cargo. US officials stated the tanker is part of a shadow fleet linked to the illegal transportation of oil from countries like Venezuela, Russia, and Iran. The Russian Foreign Ministry expressed concerns over the US pursuit of the tanker as they claim it complies with international law. Okay, this is what the right is saying about it. The US seizes Russian flagged tanker Bella 1 linked to... So you can see they're practically the same. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem stated that both the Bella 1 and the motor tanker M. Sophia were seized because they were linked to sanctioned oil activities. And if you agree that the US should take control of Venezuela, if you agree with that, then this is aligning with that, really, isn't it? It's aligning with them sanctions. And so this is becoming quite the week to start off 2026, isn't it? It's hard to talk about this stuff without putting personal biases in it. I don't think that... Okay, here's my personal biases for the first time on this channel. I don't think the US is going to take Greenland. I don't think they're going to. I think that they're going to want to buy it. I think they'll definitely try and do that. I don't think they'll do it with military force. Because it would dissolve NATO. It really would. It would ruin NATO. And I don't think the US, even though they threaten with that all the time, I think that Trump is always thinking about it as a business. They want Greenland because it has more assets. Simple as that. They can put bases there. They can, even though they can already put bases there, they can do more stuff, really, couldn't they? But I don't think they're willing to jeopardize NATO for it, no matter how much Trump says that. I think Trump threatens NATO all the time so that they pull the weight when it comes to funding with NATO. I'm pretty sure it's only Spain that hasn't upped their cap of NATO spending right now. If I'm honest with you, I don't think Trump is a very good president, but he's right by saying that these other NATO countries need to improve their spending on NATO. He is right by saying that. The reason being is if the US decided to get out of NATO, These other countries need to be able to be self-supporting. The US supplies, I think it's like 42% of troops to NATO. That's half of NATO practically gone if the US comes out of it, okay? And so, yes, these other countries need to pull their weight. They really do. And so I agree, even though I don't think Trump is necessarily the best for America, I do think he's right by saying that. And I think it's important that people do stuff like that. Whether they like someone or not, if they do something that's right, agree with it and shout it out. If they do something that's wrong, fair enough. Do I think that taking Venezuelan president was right? To be honest with you, I don't really know. I don't really know. It's way more complicated than being yes or no in this situation. Do I think that the drug participants should be criminalized? Yeah, I do. Smuggling some of these drugs that are ruining people's lives and families in America should be held accountable. Do I think that Maduro was an illegitimate president of Venezuela? I don't know enough about it to give you a final answer. And that should also be something that you strive to do. Be able to turn around and say, you know what, I don't have an answer with that because I don't necessarily know enough information on it. There's so many people that will jump to yes or no just because it aligns politically with them. It's a dangerous thing to do, man. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Question everything. If you don't know something, say it. Say I don't know enough about Venezuelan politics. Surprise, surprise, I'm a British citizen and an American citizen, and I just don't know enough about Venezuela. It's just the same as I don't know enough about, I don't know, South American politics in general, or Australian politics. I don't know enough about Australian politics. I don't know enough about Japanese politics. I don't know enough about, I don't know, Uruguay politics. Do you know what I mean? Like, so for me to have a hard opinion on something that I'm not 100% on is fair. And I think people should be aware of that. Now, obviously, the Greenland situation, I think I do have a bit more of a leg to stand on because, you know, UK is part of NATO. I was in the military. You know, I'm also a US citizen and I don't want NATO to crumble. And so with that being said, I think the best call to action would be for the US to turn around to Greenland and be like, hey, look, let's put more troops in there. Let's put more bases in there because it's national security. Don't think the US is going to do it by military force, even though they haven't ruled it out. They haven't ruled it out because they want financial leverage. I think that's what it is. I think they want the world to be like, look, we need to listen to America. I think that's what it is. And I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments. And if I'm wrong on any of this stuff, I am willing to change my opinion. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? That someone is willing to change their opinion. God forbid someone changes their opinion these days. But you're allowed to. And so, with that being said, if you disagree, or you agree, or you're in the grey area with anything that I said, let me know in the comments because I'm willing to learn and I'm willing to go forward with that. All I know is I don't want NATO to crumble. The US is vital to NATO, and I don't think it will crumble. I don't think it will. I think that the first week of 2026 has been quite rough. I think that Trump loves money and power. We can all agree on that. And so he's leveraging what he's done in Venezuela to get a bit more power and money. I think that's what it is. Whether that's a bad thing or not, it's up to you. I'm an American citizen, and so... But I live in the UK, so it swings and roundabouts in it. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Check out Chug, 10% off, link down below. And also go check out Morale as well. Other than that, I'll see you in the next video. I love you all. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.